All right, welcome everybody to Enhancing the Accountant Bookkeeper Connection series featuring Kata Accounting. Hello, my name is Tanya Hiltz. Most of you know me, and I'm here because I am passionate about collaboration, and you can find me almost on any social media at at Tanya's Bootcamp. One thing I'm just gonna take a shameless plug here and put out that if you guys have not yet noticed, because we've just literally started, go and follow me on YouTube at Tanya's Bootcamp because I am putting out a brand new AI in Action series where every week we're dropping on Wednesday afternoons. We're dropping anything, and it's up to 10 minutes of me showing some different ways of using AI, what I like to use, what AI is going to give a different outcome, all of this to get people actually utilizing it and using it in smart and ethical ways. So we're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff, but it's just little short things once a week. So you can follow me at Tanya's Bootcamp. If you want to see the one I'm doing for the non-industry, which is my clients directly, it's almost the same, just a little tweak. You can find me that one at One Cloud Biz, which is number one cloud, and then biz is BIZ. So anyway, so there's a little bit about me and recent accolades and my designations. I am not going to take the time to go through this because it's the same all the time. And basically, in order to stay, at the top of things, I have to be an influencer. I have to, like, thought leader, all of this stuff, and I get recognized for different things. So they're just always there and constantly going. So I'm gonna let you, if you want to look at them, you can stop and look yourself. So I always share off with a quote, and there's some quotes that I like to repeat because they are so relevant to the collaboration with Jonathan. And it's I can do things you cannot, you can do things I cannot, and together we can do great things. And that was Mother Teresa who said that. And I am a huge, huge believer in collaboration. I was not as much of a believer in collaboration with accountants until I met Jonathan, which is why I'm so glad that we can do these together. Just simply because I've learned so much from Jonathan. He's learned so much from me, or so he
Mm.
says. And we've been able to hopefully, influence the industry that, the traditional accountant arrogance that some accountants have, it's an individual thing. And the bookkeepers, the kitchen table talk bookkeepers, it's an individual thing, and together, if we just all help each other learn, we can elevate the industry. And so that's why we do this. So
Yeah.
yeah, so this webinar does qualify for CPD credits. I should have it out by the end of the weekend. There will be two polls that must be answered in order to qualify. And like I say, the recording of the webinar and the CPD credits will be emailed within 7 days. I did have two people reach out, so I'm just going to confirm that on the email, it does say that they are unverified credits. All that that means is that they're not pre-approved in advance. So they absolutely still qualify, but CPB has gone through a different change of things. And so we're not now going in advance. We're keeping everything in the background. If it is questioned, we have everything that they need and we follow everything that they do need. But that little change of verified to unverified just meant verified. They used to verify it ahead of time and say, yes, we're rubber stamping this before we do it. Now everything is being done after, but we still absolutely will qualify for CPD or through CPB. Everything else should meet the same qualifications. And if you don't get the email, check your spam first, and then reach out. It's possible that you may have unsubscribed yourself by accident, so I can help you work through that. Just reach out at bootcamp@mycbs.ca. So I will introduce now Jonathan Carter, who's the founder and principal accountant of Kata Accounting Solutions. We've been collaborating with Jonathan and his team for, when it says a number of years, we're now talking, I'm sure it's well over a decade. We have multiple mutual clients. What I love about them is, they work in QBO. They have such good attention to detail because they also do offer bookkeeping services, but don't try to solicit our clients. That is something that Jonathan is very, very strict on. The working relationships and whatnot, and their outstanding customer service to the point where Jonathan has been my accountant ever since I incorporated and still is my accountant. And, the top of the list when I, refer, because I always give people three options. But I always start off with, here's CAD accounting, and this is my accounting team. So that people know, and then it's up to them where they go from there. So anyway, I'm going to stop sharing and let Jonathan take it away.
Well, thanks as always, Tanya. Yeah, I've seen it in the chat a lot. I agree. Tanya is blurry.
I'm
And
blurry. Oh, I can fix it. Thank you.
says the stationary
Cameras.
panda bear. This is weird, but at least I don't have to worry about looking at different monitors because I'm just a panda bear staring at you blankly.
Right? See, but I can fix my blurriness. At least it's easy. I just turn my camera on and back off, or off and on.
Just to verify, my share screen is working well. Everybody can see the title slide.
Absolutely.
Okay. So today I'm going to talk a bit about future-proofing your business, items for us to consider as bookkeepers and accountants, and some ideas that we might be able to implement pretty quickly, or at least start the ball rolling on pretty quickly. The inspiration for this webinar has come from seeing some of the disruption that's happening right now, not only in the app world, but also in the business world, and just how things are. So I think a lot of this is probably rehashed ideas, things that we've talked about in other presentations in different manners, but I would appreciate any kind of participation. So again, not going to go over all this stuff. Long story short, I've been on this journey pretty parallel with Tanya a long ways. There's a bunch of us actually who've been very parallel. We all started around the same time as corporations or started our businesses outright at the same time. And we're very, very lucky to work with several amazing bookkeepers and to really have the trust of some of, in my opinion, the best in the country. So the agenda for today, and again, I'd appreciate any kind of participation. We're going to talk about what's coming in terms of the economy, technology, and with a specific look at app partners. What's your risk profile? Do you niche or not? Do you have a competitive advantage? What are your goals? What are your clients' goals? And then some upselling opportunities, the joint planning with the client or moving towards advisory services. And then hopefully some questions, discussion, and maybe a little bit of story time. So let's start off with our good old poll question. What is the biggest risk your firm faces? A, clients not being able to pay. B, AI app partners taking my job. C, accountants stealing my clients. D, my health. Or E, information security. And some of these, they might not be a big concern at the moment, but you could understand that it is a big risk, right? So again, very subjective. There is no correct answer. Make sure you answer to get your CPDs. And just on that, just so you know what goes on in the background is every month when I send the slides to Tanya so she can pre-populate, we're also doing the form for CPB. Those are getting submitted and eventually they get approved. I don't think we've had any denied.
No, actually, they changed that about a year ago.
Oh,
So, yeah. So, what's happened is they've changed it about a year ago. I still hold on to everything because if they do come in and audit, they may want that. So, we still hang on to them. But basically, what happened was they disbanded the committee that reviewed it, and it was either start a new committee, which they're rebuilding, or the board members do that. And we have a board member on the call, and that board member will probably agree. There is a lot that the board members have to do rather to do that. So, certain of us, so I spoke to Jeff Caverly and they've approved it for us because, we follow everything. They've said just keep doing it, but just have me hang on to it. So I've not submitted. They're just approving in the back end, but we have everything just in case. And that's why it's now changed to unverified because they used to approve it either before and then they started saying, well, we're running behind, but Tanya, you guys are always good. And then send us the official approval afterwards. And then it just changed it. They fell too far behind and said, Tanya, you guys are always good. Just keep it. So,
awesome.
yeah. Okay. So, poll. I think that's still going. Sorry. Where did it go? Here it is. Okay. So, we will end the poll um, and share the results. And there we go.
Interesting. A lot of people said my health. That was my pick too. And I'll tell you why. It's because there's certain work that only I can do. I am the bottleneck in the firm. If something terrible were to happen to me, people wouldn't lose their jobs immediately. The clients wouldn't be completely unserved, but there definitely needs to be a succession plan there. I've got one in the works for a CPA who will come in and do the approvals of all the tax work, and will simply take over the compilations because that is something that requires a CPA. Clients not being able to pay is something I want on everybody's radar. Even if you're doing pre-receivables, that is, you're charging at the beginning of the period, if that credit card gets declined, you need to consider how long are you going to let things slide for? Because even if you've had trust, if you've had a good relationship in the past, those are some things that we're going to see more and more problems with. We're going to get into more of this stuff as we go along, but yeah, good start. What's coming? Technology. AI is all the rage. I've seen some very cool stuff from AI. I'm learning about some really amazing things from agentic AI. So, for instance, there are now browser overlays for Chrome that you work with. I believe ChatGPT and Perplexity have them. I don't know who else has them, but you can actually have a side panel and give the AI instructions, and it will take action for you on your browsers.
Okay,
Um, yep.
sorry, can I just jump in on here? Because we did talk about this at one of the conferences. I want to say, I think it was at Accountex that somebody had told me about that because
Yes, it was a
Perplexity has.
context.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie. Yeah. Perplexity has its very own browser. They were the first to come out with it, Comment. And so I started looking into it right afterwards. But the initial thing that I said to the person who had told me about it, they were very proud of it. They said, yeah, it's the overlay, this and that. And I said to him, I said, did you look into the settings in the background? What happens with the information? The unfortunate thing is that there is no privacy of information right now written in when we use that. All that information is being recorded. Even if you have a paid account, you can then go into the back end, just like with any of your accounts through ChatGPT or whatnot. You can go in and you can turn off to allow to so it doesn't learn, but it still keeps that information. In the September, I want to say it was ChatGPT did have a breach. 2 days everything was accessible. So even if you put it there to not learn, it is just like your credit card, giving it to somebody. If there is a breach, somebody can go in and download absolutely everything. So this is why we should still be very, very careful. I have not turned on any of those overlays because it will see everything. It will see clients' banking information. And so I have a huge concern with that right now. And just take a look at like in the US, for example, they just announced this week with regards to Doge. Doge is now gone. Nobody's getting the Doge checks, but the one thing that Doge did that everybody is in agreement is it leaked private information and was in complete non-compliance of the US privacy laws. So just be really, really careful on that. Hopefully it's going to be changing soon. But that's something just to be really, really careful of.
Yeah, I would agree. The third one I was going to mention was Claude, which can actually be deployed right on your laptop or your desktop and do stuff within your computer.
Yeah.
So these kind of agentic AIs are coming more and more and more. QuickBooks is just upgraded. I know our Dubsado just recently upgraded. Dext has had some stuff going on for a little while. These are like major tools that we use every day. So yeah, we do have to be very cautious. We do have to look at those privacy settings, not just the terms, but also the settings to make sure
Well,
that they're appropriately set up.
and then also make sure our engagement letters
Cloud and
are updated.
yeah,
Sorry, yeah. Also make sure our
that
engagement letters are updated. And our engagement letter should also be updated saying that, while we use these types of AI, we are not uploading information. Just try to use and look at what some of the general terms are, because if you're using a browser overlay and you're maybe not giving it what information is in there, you still don't want to be liable for that. So just be really careful with that.
yeah, I agree. There are some that are more compartmentalized. and are specifically designed to be used. The ones that come to the forefront of my mind are MindBridge AI. There's a new one called FirstPass that's still in development, and they're specifically for using client information. So specifically, it can't learn from that. It's funny actually because the way they're developing, FirstPass is developing their product, is actually through feedback from accountant partners. And that's pretty interesting. Right now, they're really focused on the US market, and they just contacted me out of the to have some discussions about the Canadian market and the differences there. And already they've gotten some feedback that is going to help them improve their technology.
Well, and if I can just real quickly add, because I don't want to take up too much time, but Claude, just as you're saying that, Jonathan, with what's taking feedback from the accountants, Agentic, or sorry, Anthropic, who owns Claude, has actually came out a couple of weeks ago, probably almost a month ago now, that said that they are going to niche in finance and accounting because most of us are using it. They also came out right afterwards with the security issues, saying that they are not interested in like for any of these breaches and data mining using the information like that, and that they are going to, because they're niching in accounting, are going to do their best to change everything so that they are working within privacy laws and whatnot. I don't know what they have to do in the back end, but that's what they've said publicly. Them and Google were the two. And I want to say that came out the same week that the last week when the Chat GPT and Intuit partnership came out, because there was a lot of concern on, now the data mining, right? What's going to happen with that? So that came out. So I would say keep an eye on Claude. That looks like it's going to be top of the privacy.
One
Not
that
quite
comes to
there
mind
yet.
for me, very centric to the accountant world, is BlueJ, which is a tax research tool that was built in conjunction with CPA Canada. And then what was the other one? MindBridge is specifically for auditors. And I've actually been specifically instructed I'm not allowed to use that software because I do not have a public accounting license by CPA. And it's pretty neat because you can ingest the file and come up with your audit plan automatically and even select your test transactions. And it's pretty neat. It should really save audit firms a lot of work. Unfortunately, that work will be the work that's normally done by the juniors who are being trained and coming up. So it'll be interesting to see how those shifts, when we get to the economy, I'll talk a bit more about it, but how those shifts are going to impact our industry. So everybody here knows about cloud computing. Is there anybody here who's not already at least 80% on the cloud? Oh, okay. So Lynn. All right. And Lynn, if you don't mind me asking, why is that?
Because I'm still using desktop software.
Okay. Do you do backups on the cloud?
Yeah,
Well, that's
to
helpful.
the cloud.
Yeah, that's helpful. That's
Yeah.
helpful. Because then it makes your data, and like, God forbid there's a fire and it burns down where the desktop is, you can still get your data from
Oh,
the cloud, right?
I'm the queen of backups and redundant backups.
Edge computing is essentially a variation of the cloud that we're actually using a lot, and that is when you have a sync between the workstation and the cloud. So other people are probably using it, like OneDrive is a really good example of that, where you have everything on your laptop, but it's synced to the cloud, and that's to decrease the amount of transmission time and the amount of resources required to constantly access things on the cloud. Security risks are increasing like crazy. I don't know if anybody has seen the output from CRA on X, but yeah, there's a lot of sketchy stuff coming out from people pretending to be CRA. Recently, MNP. There have been stuff from QuickBooks. It looks very official like QuickBooks. It's come to the point where when I receive these emails, I'm going and logging in on the third party. I'm not clicking links on there because I just don't know. I've gotten a ton from DocuSign, and I'm not expecting anything from DocuSign. So these are like all different ways. These look really, really official. Really, really official.
Well, we have an internal policy that we don't open anything or click on any links that come through by email at all.
Yeah.
So I mean, the only time, like, it's essentially me, like, Jonathan, you know what, we know if we're expecting something from you and it's your sharing. But again, we still try to go in the back end of everything. But even if we're expecting, we tell clients, no, we have a client portal and we have a portal for a reason. If it comes through by email, we assume that it's not real and we don't click and we don't open anything. So if they want us to pay attention, don't email it.
Yeah, fair.
It's a
And
great
I think that's,
idea to make the clients use the portal.
yeah, I think
Exactly.
that's a good security improvement. That's something I'm going to think about. I had FCC deregulation on here. This is more on the US side. It is not a new topic. This did go away. I think it was in like Trump's first term. But essentially, it means that the people who control the internet are can screw with people's internet service to their own benefit, right? And that's something that I think we need to keep an eye on, particularly as there are questions about what's going on in the United States, and a lot of us really, really, really rely on US app partners. So, speaking of app partners, there is an increasing deployment of AI. And Tanya already mentioned a bunch of the things with regards to privacy concerns, hacks, different things along those lines that could be major issues when it comes to AI. AI is being deployed whether we like it or not. Everybody's probably got the AI bank feeds now. I'm liking them, but they do make mistakes, right? It's like advanced machine learning. The old machine learning, but like on a little bit of steroids. Another thing that I've noticed that I of course find very frustrating is devaluing the bookkeepers. The marketing devaluing the bookkeepers. This is not a new thing. This has happened before and it's continuing to happen, but I think it's happening more and more, like on a broader scale. And we see app partners who have secured an oligopoly exploiting their competitive advantage. And the 35% price increase on QBO Plus coming in March, I think is a very good example of that. And because they're a price leader and they have an oligopoly position, all the other smaller firms or smaller app partners are going to follow. They'll probably be slightly more competitively priced, but it's just going to get more and more expensive for people to have accounting software, and especially for small businesses. Which means if we're dealing with the small and the micro businesses, we're going to have more and more challenges on the different types of software that are being brought to our door, the quality of the record keeping that's being brought to our door, and so on. So, I mean, app partners are great at marketing, but they're not necessarily good at bookkeeping and accounting. So, just some things to keep an eye on. Economy, we have trade barriers. I've had an hour-long conversation. If anybody wants to move to St. Lucia and buy a business that's profitable down there, I know of one for sale. But they're having problems, right? Because they rely heavily on US based tourism. They rely heavily on US suppliers. And of course, the trade barriers are becoming a very big problem. That just kind of highlighted their economic dependence on the US. And of course, the US currency going higher compared to the most of the rest of the world is impacting their source costs. Now, this particular business was very wise, and as soon as the talk of tariffs started happening, they made like they literally short up, bought like 2.6 million in inventory just to make sure that they weren't going to get hit with who knows what kind of tariff in the future. Unfortunately, that's not good for their inventory turnover ratio, but hey, that's the way it goes. It was a strategic decision. This also is going to impact us for the app prices. So one of the things that we started doing is consolidating and reducing the number of apps in our app stack. So for instance, we only have one Zoom license in the firm anymore. Now we're doing everything in Google Meet except for one Zoom license, which I hold. The That's something you might want to consider as well for your capital investment is likely to decline in the short term, and it's likely to become more focused on larger businesses and especially those in the export business based on the budget that came out a couple weeks ago. Looks like interest rates have stabilized for the short term, but we'll have to keep an eye on those. I don't foresee them dropping, but they might go up depending on what happens with inflation. And of course, the R word, something nobody wants to talk about, but I think we're already in a fairly stagnant economy right now. And if we start seeing that contraction for more than 3/4, we will be in the R word. And yeah, that will definitely impact our partners. Has anybody had any of their companies, their clients been already seriously impacted? And if so, is there anything that you've helped them do to mitigate the risks of what's happening? Yeah, Carol, you got a little story for us?
Well, I had a client who does deal with Canada and US, so he's been slammed with the tariffs. I tried to give some helpful information, but he decided that he was going to do the bookkeeping himself and took it over. So
Okay.
I let him.
You can lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to
You know
drink.
what? And I did try to give him a reduced price. I repriced him, and then the other avenue was, well, if you remove all the personal expenses that you have coming out of your business, I could reduce it this much more. And he went away and thought about it, and he came back and said no.
Oh,
So even though he's still drawing a $10,000 a month dividend for himself, he wasn't willing to pay me. So I wasn't going to argue. I'm not going to fight to keep business
no.
because if you're already nickel and diming me, you're going to keep doing it. So um, I allowed it. Well, we visited this back in the beginning of the year when he was having some issues. The difference wasn't going to be much, so he left it as is. But I kind of had it in the back of my mind that, it's probably going to come back. And then with the tariffs, of course, it made it a little more crazy for him. But I do find that he does make a fair amount of not silly financial decisions, but almost like where, not getting scammed, but like getting into doing a line of credit with the company that then the rates are so high, it's crazy. And he's
Yeah,
done it twice, but he doesn't come to me about that. It's just this is what he's done. And then so I just kind of went, I
yeah,
want to wash my hands of you. So it was a bit of a hit to my bottom line, but I will work through it and rebuild with more confident, better clients.
yeah.
That's how I have to look at it. So
And I think we're going to face increasing nickel and diming from certain types of businesses. And there's certain niches that might be a big risk. So I'll get to that in a minute, but I just wanted to talk quickly. One of the things I'm planning on doing this holiday is a SWOT analysis. I haven't done one in over a year. And looking at the key risks and threats and forming plans on how to mitigate them. Top of my list, of course, is a succession plan. What happens if something happens to me? What happens to our clients? What happens to my team's jobs? And hopefully we can get that all completely um, mitigated and I can make myself obsolete by the end of next year. I'm hoping, but that's going to entail a big and expensive hire. The other thing I was going to say is, what are your key strengths? What are your differentiators? Are there opportunities that you could leverage but aren't yet? Those are something I look at as well. Jennifer has her hand up.
Just thinking about solo bookkeepers, that's been a thing on my mind is, with clients, what happens if, something happens to you? Um, and what are some of the sort of, uh, possibilities or opportunities that solo bookkeepers can take advantage of to make sure that we don't leave our clients in the lurch if, we get sick or hit by a bus or something like that. So I don't know whether there's any.
Partner with somebody.
Agreed.
Well, that's been the first thought in my mind.
Like
And
get
partner
somebody,
with
you're
somebody.
their backup, they're your backup, right?
Yeah,
So share the like Sherry's my person. That if anything happens to her or me, regardless of what we've got teams and stuff, her and I were stepping in and taking over for the other person wherever they need to be filled, right? And taking over clients. So I've got her sign in, she's got my sign ins, like, we've got all of that stuff shared. So
yeah, that's what I figured was the sort of most obvious thing. I didn't know it's kind of a topic for discussion. I would think that a lot of people have
There
probably
needs
have that risk.
there needs to be a compensation as well, right? Because you can't be like, okay, just take all my clients. You've lost all the value of your business, and then all of a sudden, you're bringing in no money, and you're ill, and you really need that money. So there needs to be some kind of way that the other person's being compensated for doing the work, but you still
Of
have
course.
income being generated by the business you've built. So
Yes.
that's a key consideration.
And I think it's got
Kelly
to be
did a
somebody you
great.
trust too, that they're
Oh,
not going to just
absolutely.
take your
Trust is
clients.
vital. 100% vital. Kelly Parks did a great talk about this at CPB Ignite. I don't know if it was recorded or not, but that's essentially like what the arrangement she has with her partner, who's going to help her. Pranay, just I want to acknowledge a comment here that the fundamental basis of AI lies in reading patterns and learning from data sets. And it'll be very tempting for AI businesses to use every data set to learn from. Absolutely. And furthermore, a very big risk of that is the quality of the data matters a lot. And as everybody here knows, every QuickBooks file is perfect, and there's never problems with the data, right? So if it's learning from that bad data, what is it going to be advising clients to do? Or scary, a little bit more scary is what is it going to be doing without the clients even knowing, right?
Thanks for the nightmare.
Well, you know what?
Pete.
It's just it's the reality of
I know.
right?
And you know what I do to combat this is I have an education call with my client. It's not a discovery call, it is an education call where they need to see here's what we do, and I go through it and really push my value on that call. It is a mandatory 1 hour call before they get a quote from me. If they're not willing to do that, they don't get a quote from me. And this is after, my things of weeding out to be, do I think we're going to be a good fit so far? Through this call, I let them know eyes, human eyes look at every single receipt. That is never going to change with us. And why is that never going to change? Because most of these apps are all in the US and they're doing everything for US cash bases, all of this other stuff. The IRS has very different rules than CRA, right? So it's even more important that we stay on top of it. But I sell my value. And that is all there is to it. So it's real important for me to make sure that I'm doing everything I can with asking the right questions and advertising in the right place. And then that final thing of doing that sale to make sure I'm not wasting my time on people that just want to pay the cheapest price and don't want to stay out of trouble with CRA, right? So that is the education is going to be very, very important for each of us because I believe AI is not a threat to us unless we let it be a threat to us.
Yeah. I I think it there's the opportunity to pivot and learn about the AI, but if you don't, I think it is a threat.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it is a threat just generally speaking, but it is one that can be mitigated and worked with to our advantage, can be turned into an advantage. So I want to talk a bit about client risk. Niches can present a serious risk. If you're niche too deep in one area, and then all of a sudden that's thrown for a loop, that can be cause a lot of problems. One thing that's happened, of course, over the last year is e-com, right? Everything getting imported from China. Now there's massive tariffs on it. Your pricing is no longer competitive. Amazon is raising their fees. Your margins are shrinking. You could do the same volume that you did last year and have half the profit. So, looking at the niches and how focused you are in them is something to consider.
Well,
One of the areas we wanted to niche in was daycares and the Seawalk centers, but you know what? We're having second thoughts about that because they are legislatively limited to the amount of profit they can have. So there's little incentive for new players in the market, and there's going to be a constant downward pressure on pricing for us because they're only limited to a certain amount of profit that they're allowed to have under the Seawell program. Sorry, Tanya, you
well,
were going to chime in with something.
sorry, yeah, I was just gonna say that especially when it comes to niches, we take a look at like through COVID and now. This is two things that if we are sticking with one or two niches, and I have always been huge on if you're gonna niche, have several different niches. And I had one person, Lillian in Boston, through COVID, she called me and she's like, Tanya, I'm gonna niche in this one, I'm gonna niche, and I said no. And thankfully, she just listened to me. This was like years before COVID. And I said, no, you can't. Do not put all your eggs in one basket. Have similar, but have enough. And she called me and said, like, thank you, because she did hit one of her niches was hit through COVID. But because she didn't have all her eggs in one basket, she was okay. I also know somebody else who did niche in a lot in the travel industry and they were hit really, really bad. So you just need to be really careful. Yeah, just be really careful. There are lots of reasons why we should not have just one niche, right? So
That was me in the travel industry, Tanya.
I was gonna
Yeah.
let you, if you wanted to say it was you, you could say it was
Yeah.
you, but
I lost over 90% of my clients in 6 months. Counseled them through everything, like the tears that landed on my shoulders of everybody losing their business, of things that they felt passionate about, was brutal. And yeah, I almost, had I not have been able to contract myself out to some other bookkeeping firms for a while as a contractor, I would have had to close my doors at that point.
You know what?
and
I
thank
think
you
that
for
really
sharing, Kim.
points to this next item of being able to pivot.
Mhm.
Sorry, Carrie, I'm going to come back to you because I did see you had your hand up,
No worries. No
but
worries.
I
It was
want
about niching, but don't worry about it.
well, no, I think your comments are valuable as well.
Oh.
But I did want to get through these things just real quick because it might stimulate some other ideas. And one thing that I think Kim's story just kind of highlighted was she was able to pivot. She
Yes.
was able to pivot and survive. And when clients are stuck in the past, and by stuck in the past, I don't mean desktop. I mean they're giving you stuff 2 and 3 months after it should have come to you, and they're always looking at numbers. Their ability to pivot is extremely limited. So, for instance, we have one client we're working with right now. We're almost done their cleanup. We're almost ready to move to an audit. They came to us and they're like, "Oh yeah, our books are in QuickBooks. Everything's fine." And obviously, they had not had professional help because all their revenue accounts were set up as bank accounts. In fact, almost the entire chart of accounts was sitting in bank accounts. And obviously, that's incorrect. And I have no idea how the big four firm who did their taxes was able to do their taxes, but they don't tie to reality of what's in the books whatsoever. So now they're going for major funding. They're like up for an audit from like to get this funding, but they were so not paying attention that it created a big problem for them. A key thing to know if your client is being proactive is, are they asking you questions? So they should be asking you questions. If they're not asking you questions, that's a bit of a risk. And by you, it doesn't necessarily have to be you yourself, but it could be, part of your team. Carrie, what were you going to mention?
I was just going to mention that well, I think it was last week or the week before, I was talking with Tanya about possibly niching with law firms. And she advised me not to, and I completely thank her because it's something that I do not want to get into.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of education comes with that.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do it, there's a lot to learn. Like that's when she said that. I'm like, she's like Cosmolex. And I'm like, no, no, no. I said there are so many of us that won't touch law firms because there's so much extra that we need to know and do and trust accounting. It's not just the books, right? So we have to stay compliant with the Law Society and everything else. So
And I don't know if anybody has ever seen, but lawyers aren't exactly the best at keeping their records up to date.
no, and I've heard that
Probably a scramble every single month.
they are extremely price sensitive, which is funny. They're
That's
like,
Yeah, they
I
don't
just want
pay
you to
either.
do it. I just want you to do it. I don't care the cost. And then they get the bill and they're like, no, this is a lot more than I expected.
So I wanted to talk about competitive advantage for a quick moment. There's something else in economic terms called an absolute advantage. An absolute advantage exists when you have something that nobody else has. So, for instance, um, oh, what would be a good example? You know,
Well, me. Let's just do what I do. Eyes will look on it, and I have tax and CRA, tax and audit experience, not from a CPA audit, but dealing with CRA and clients on their reviews and audits dating back to 1997.
I would
They're,
definitely say that's a competitive advantage, but an
yeah.
absolute advantage would be more like you having something that nobody else has. Like
Oh,
the
okay.
beginning of Chat GPT coming out, OpenAI coming out back in, was it 2018? Like that, was it 2018? Was it that long ago? No, it wasn't that long ago.
No.
When they first came out, they had an absolute advantage. They were the
Yes.
leader,
Mhm.
everybody was following, right? Similar kind of things can happen in other oligopoly situations. So it's something to keep an eye on. In our industry, I don't think that happens. I don't think anybody has an absolute advantage, but I do think there are competitive advantages. For instance, being a CPB, that right there, I think is a competitive advantage. Having other designations can set you apart from the competition. Being specialized in the industry in your niche, the breadth and depth of services that you offer, the prices that you charge, and I'm not advocating for you to compete on price. I think that is a very bad idea, generally speaking. The value you provide, the tech you leverage, the partners you work with, and the team you've built. The partners and the team, I think, are very important, right? Because you can't know everything, you can't do everything. But having that network, having that team, either internally or externally, having those partners, that can help you get solutions for a client who might otherwise have to walk away from you. Marketing to your competitive advantage will attract the clients who value what you offer. So if you're marketing on price, you're going to attract people who are looking for the lowest price. If you're marketing on niche, you're going to attract people from that niche, things along those. All right, goal setting. I talk about this a lot. It's something I constantly revisit. So everything, in my opinion, starts with your personal goals. Julia and I, we wanted to have a home-based business that allowed us to live a lifestyle that we wanted to live, and I think we've been successful with that. Our timeline was definitely a bit jaggedy, but it happened. They have to be achievable and realistic goals and aligned with your values. So one of the things I'm very, very proud of right now, and like please don't smack me if I fall down. I am now 17 days without cigarettes. And that is something that I wanted to be done by the end of the year. It was achievable, it was realistic, had a timeline, and it aligns with the values I have. So
Congrats.
thanks. Those are going to push your business
Huge
goals.
congratulations to you.
That's
It's
awesome.
harder than
Huge
quitting crack.
congratulations. It's hard.
Yeah.
Hardest thing I ever did.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not quite through the other side. I mean, I still have mad cravings, but hey,
It's just
I've
a
been told you're going to have those cravings for the rest of your life. So
no, they do fade,
yeah,
but
I don't know. Every now and then they pop up. If I smell somebody smoking the same brand I used to smoke at the right time, and I quit 25 years ago. So it was a year before, so 26, a year before I got pregnant.
yeah, I'm 35 years in of quitting,
Yeah.
so yeah. But
it's
no, I might smell it for half a second, and then my brain goes to ugh, the throat, the coughing, yeah.
I
No.
can't I can't even stand the smell of it anymore. Like I can smell people smoking in their vehicles with their windows closed, and our windows are closed, and I can still smell it. That's how bad it
Yeah.
is.
yeah,
As they drive by.
I
Yeah.
hate
Yeah.
it in my elevator. There's one couple that live on the fourth floor, and because our building is completely smoke free, you can't even smoke in your apartments or on your balcony or anything. So they have to go downstairs and they go and they park their truck outside on the back road and they smoke in there. And then they come back in, and then the elevator just stinks. You can always tell when they've gone down for a cigarette, and they do it
I'm
3 or 4
st
times a day.
I'm starting to get to that point where I'm really noticing the smell. But
Yeah.
anyway, all right, back to business goals. Everybody probably wants to grow their revenue. I'd be very surprised if people don't want to grow their revenue. Service offering changes is something you should examine on a regular basis. Is there something you're doing that you don't want to be doing, or worse, that's losing you money? Because that can happen. You look at a particular, say, a manufacturing company, where are your margins? Why are you producing this item that gives you a 3% margin? Why are you even bothering to put that effort into it, right? Developing leadership within your team and changing your work schedule, right? So I am doing both the last two, well, actually, the last three thing, all of these things are important to us, but the last two are the most important. I want to change my work schedule, just change the way I'm time blocking for myself and change the expectations for the team so things are getting done a bit sooner. I've been doing that over the year, but really I want to develop leaders because I don't want to be the man at Cata Accounting. I want to be the leader, the founder, but I want other people to lead the teams. So, having this in mind, it's a really good idea to speak to your clients about their goals. Do they have any goals? Should they be making goals? How can you help them set and achieve goals? Having a proactive discussion with them here could lead to consulting, increased advisory services and engagements there. And more importantly, in the long term, it can really help the clients. For instance, we had a partner or a client who was doing a major expansion, and they're like, "Oh no, we don't need help. We've got a business plan. My husband's an accountant, my dad's an accountant, it'll be fine." They weren't the right types of accountants. And yeah, they had a business plan that looked great on paper, but it wasn't being adjusted and looked for on a regular basis as hiccups occurred. And now they're in a pinch. And because they've been living in the past, they need to pivot and their books aren't up to date to give them that clear picture. So these are some things that can really help encourage clients to be more proactive and to send you the stuff on time and to reach out to you as a trusted advisor. Client goals, it's a great opportunity to upsell them, to show your value, to make you a trusted advisor. I'd say the top two are helping them set goals and helping them budget and forecast. This is something most people don't want to pay for, so you have to figure out how you're going to communicate the importance of that in order to sell them these services. You can also we have what we call the ongoing referral list. It's now 34 pages long of various partners who can help our clients achieve their goals. If they need financing, they need somebody who's going to help them market their business, they need a corporate lawyer, they need a mortgage broker, they need a coach, they need a tax lawyer. Those are all part of the partners that we've listed. Now, we've vetted them, and it's important to vet those partners because there's nothing worse than making a referral and then the client being mad at you because the referral partner didn't do their job. Also, you can help them monitor their progress along all of these different areas. And again, just deepen that relationship. Relationships cannot be replaced by an app partner or by AI. They're all about scale, volume. You are the one who can manage a relationship. All right, we made it with 4 minutes to spare. So, what's your biggest takeaway from this webinar? A, I need to do a SWOT analysis. B, I need to focus or diversify my client base. C, I need to make decisions about what technology to implement. D, I need to revisit how I market my business. Or E, I want to be more collaborative.
All right, so we've got less than 50% answering. So remember, both polls need to be answered to get your CPD eligibility. And then while we're waiting for this, I just kind of wanted to add in one of the things that I've done is I am shifting and staying ahead of the game. And I am actually getting into myself, and I know there's a few people on the call as well. We're actually getting into um, uh, management accounting. The way that I'm doing this is through the cash flow canvas, which I feel is not properly titled to what we have to, but essentially is I am now helping clients to build a better business plan. Essentially, essentially it's cash flow coaching, but it covers a whole bunch of other things. But I'm marketing it as helping them build a better business plan, one that actually works. So if anybody's interested, I am marketing it separate because just as Jonathan said, the clients are going to want it for free. So I'm marketing it separately so you guys can take a look. Plan for profit, with four being the number four, is my new site. I am marketing that separately. I am not going to be necessarily, everybody's not going to be my niche or, want to work with them for bookkeeping. But I am, marketing it separately, doing it separately. I'm teaching in classes. If anybody is interested, you get a discount from me if you sign up through a link that I have. So you can get 10% off, and or we can even work out an affiliate that you can send people through the class and I send them back to you trained on it. It's so many hours just a boom training in and out. So something to think about, that starting to move over to something different, so that I can be able to provide again more services on that. So all right.
Cool.
We've got all but one person voted, so I will count down in the poll. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the poll. Okay, so here's the results.
I need to do a SWOT analysis. I need to revisit how I market my business.
Yeah.
I think that's an important one.
Well, so I just want
For
to add there too, we're changing our plan. So again, if anybody wants to take a look to see what we're doing, it's updated on the website, more of a soft. I'm going to do a big launch to all my clients and whatnot the new year, but go to the cloudbusinessservices.ca. I have now redone my prices. We talked about it on boot camp and everybody's really excited. I don't know the price they're going to be for it yet. I'm still kind of working that out, trying to get it down to a per transaction. But essentially my three plans are going to be past, present, and future. Very
love it.
simple with clients. Just done simple, simple to what you get. If you're price sensitive, great, you can go with the past plan. But guess what? By the time I do your year end and all this other stuff and the GST, HSTs, you're going to pay the same as you would in the present. Right? So, but if you guys want to see how that's done, look it up. I have got over 20 hours of collaborating with ChatGPT and Claude with this to set these plans up. And like I say, just getting into the pricing. And yes, those of you in boot camp, it's all going to be launched out once I've got it all figured out. But anybody can take a look because that's up there and that's what I'm going. We need to go really, really more to, again, to what clients want. If they want cheap, great, but it's really cut back. But I'm not taking out anything that's very ethical to me. We're still looking at every transaction. I'm not doing cash. I'm just taking out certain things like the GST. They can only ask questions about the past. They can't book calls with us. Very restricted. So go on there to take a look.
I love that past, present, and future. That's kind of a similar way that we are marketing our various platforms. Yeah, because there's some people they just want the taxes done.
Yeah. Well,
There's
and Claude thinks it's very smart too. Claude says I'm brilliant for coming up with that. So there we go. Mind you, I've also told Claude to tell me I'm brilliant at least once a day. So sorry.
no
Go,
worries.
John.
Um, so yeah, okay. We talked about marketing the business because you can burn a ton of time talking with bad leads. And you know what? If you make a bad client happy, they're going to send you more bad clients. And it's going to waste more of your time on the sales side of it. So I think like really that marketing will lead to which direction you want to go with your client base, right? If you want
Oh,
clients who highly value you, that's how you need to be marketing is on the value, not on the price.
well, and I just want to say how important that is because after we went through everything we went through with COVID and I refocused back on a bunch of stuff, most of you guys or all of you are probably following my story. When I sat down and did the marketing, I changed the marketing. We are back to an 80 to 85% close rate. Now, that's
Amazing.
not everybody that contacts us, but these are the right clients. I might only close one client a month, but I'm not wasting my time talking to these clients because I talk to them for 5 minutes. I'm able to do things in my process to weed them out. So they're either going to be weeded out from my website and from my marketing, or they're going to be weeded out from the phone call, or they're going to be weeded out from the questionnaire. So out of those that I'm quoting, which is maybe two a month. But again, it's now I'm focusing. I would rather talk to two a month and close 85% than talk to 10 a month and close 10%.
Yeah. And because you're having more productive, more meaningful conversations.
That's exactly. I'm still closing one a month, but now I'm talking to 10 people instead of to two people, right? Totally.
Kim, just to clarify, why can't these questions have an other answer that we discuss? Are you talking about the poll questions?
Probably she's actually, I can see her talking to a client or somebody.
Oh,
So
okay.
she's not listening to us, but I think that's it.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind for the future.
Yeah.
So this was a good one. Too bad Alan left because it was an Alan quote. Uh, the future cannot be predicted, but futures can be invented. I've heard the term create your own future. I've heard that tossed around before, and I think it is important to recognize what you do today will impact your future life.
It is, but let me just add though that although the future can't be predicted, I think it can to a certain extent because you look at insurance. That was my background. That's what we do. If you look at the past can help give you clues as to what's coming up so that you can then invent your future and future-proof yourself to a certain extent.
I agree. I agree 100%. And like looking and learning at the lessons from the past, right? Like
Yeah.
we've drastically changed the way we're going to accept new clients, even clients from our network,
Yeah.
existing clients. We're going to be looking at things like their capacity to pay right off the bat.
Oh, we learned a lot through COVID.
We're
Our industry learned so much through COVID.
Yeah, absolutely. Their attitudes towards allowing us to have a pre-authorized credit card on file. If they don't want to, you know what? That might just be a deal breaker in the future.
Oh, that's why you didn't get back to me because I refused to fill out the form. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I did fill it out. I did fill it out.
You know what? We have that. You're
Counted.
you're not the only one because of the automation. A lot of people are like, "Oh, it's just another email. I'll deal with it later."
Oh
But
no, I did fill it
realize,
out though. I did. I don't think I saw it in the first one, but then it's like, yeah, so I did. But I think, yeah, it might have been a later, but it is already filled out.
so just to summarize, changes happening now. We have the economic shifts happening and the economic uncertainty. I think these shifts are not temporary. I think they are permanent shifts. And I think you're going to see a lot of people moving, trying to find other markets outside the US, other suppliers outside the US. I think there's a giant gap right now, and there needs to be a Canadian-based accounting platform that is good.
Can
Uh,
I can I say there is one coming? I can't say anything about it. But what I can say is I will definitely Sandra and I are now in there to be able to work with it. It is 100% Canadian based by a Canadian accountant who has a Canadian bookkeeping team who is working very hard on it. It was worked on many years ago. It was put on the shelf and then taken back off. It is going to be closer to a ledger base, and the information will be encrypted. So the bookkeeper or accountant owns the data. If the client wants the data, no problem. It'll be sent to them in an encrypted file, but the only person that can actually uncrypt the data is somebody that has a license, and the licenses will only be to the accountants and bookkeepers. So there's a lot of things that this person has learned and done a lot of the things that people are frustrated with CRA. This person is a CPA, so it is following CPA. They have team members that are CPB, so they are following all of the rules and have been working very hard. And Sandra is going to be starting to work with it. We should be able to be sharing more information in January, but it is coming. And it's
I'm excited.
only on a Canadian server, only Canadian based, no interest in even going US. So there should be a lot there coming. So keep an eye out.
I am very interested. Um,
I'm
I,
signed to an NDA, so I can't say who it is, but yeah, we're very excited.
you shouldn't say who it is if you signed an
No, I
NDA.
shouldn't. And that's why I can't, because I did sign an NDA, but yeah. But more
Um,
will be coming for sure.
but yeah, I think these shifts that are happening now, they're permanent shifts. They're things that we're going to have to adopt and adapt to a new reality. And I think that US companies are going to learn some hard lessons eventually. I think it'll be a long time for a lot of the players, but there's definitely I think we'll see some consolidation. We'll see some app partners die, things along those lines over the next 3 years. Understanding and mitigating your risk profile, and understanding and leveraging your competitive advantage to strive towards your goals. And of course, always be collaborative, have partnerships with your clients, have partners who can help your clients in ways you can't, and have a team that you can really work with. Develop those relationships because that's really what's going to set you apart from AI. Now, Carol, you had your hand up there for a moment. I saw
Oh,
it.
I was just going to ask if that one that Tanya's talking about is that payday one that
Nope.
Rachel is.
Nope. It's got nothing to do with payroll. It is going to be a ledger.
Oh, like
It
a
is
whole
it
accounting.
is a whole accounting thing. Yeah, it won't be pay, it won't have payroll in it, but so no,
Oh,
it's not that. This is not, there are literally outside of this person's firm, there are 5 people that are aware of this, and we've all been signed to NDAs.
yeah, no, absolutely.
Yep.
Um,
Perfect.
Brene also asked, don't clients own the data?
They do.
That's an
They do.
interesting philosophical question. I would agree
So
that they do. It is the client data.
So clients on the data, where this is different is, and that's why they get the data. But let's say somebody hasn't paid you. Right now, QBO will just say, hey, it doesn't matter. They do it. They only technically own the data they've paid you for. So if you've already entered a bunch of stuff that they've not paid you for, that becomes an ethical issue. So this person has looked into it legally every single which way. And this is where they can say, no, absolutely. They're exporting the data and giving it back to the client. If the client has paid us, they're paid up to date, we can export it in a way that they can see it. Should they choose to try to run away without paying us, that's when they call the company and the company will give them a file. But in order to access the data in the file, they need to go back to us that owns the license to the encryption on it. And it is perfectly legal. That was almost a year investigating that alone.
Interesting.
And that's
Yeah.
really important because QBO, and I have seen it happen where they have turned data over to owners when owners haven't paid their bill.
Yeah.
And I think that's garbage. That's
And
why
this is where the encryption,
yeah,
yeah, it's where the encryption comes in saying, yep, we're giving that. Yeah. Cause that was the first thing I said. Hang on a second. What's this? But that was over a year with lawyers to make sure that that was properly legal, CPB, CPA, all of this.
Good. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So, any other questions or points of discussion people would like to chat about? I just wanted to give a quick shout out. Carrie, you've been showing up in my feed more. I like what you're doing with your marketing.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I like the feedback because I wasn't sure what was happening.
Jennifer, I think you were going to say something there. And you're on mute.
I was just relating it to my son's a mechanic. I was just relating to a similar situation. You own your car, but if you don't pay for your car repair, the shop is not going to give you your car back and they're going to lock it up until you do. And in fact, my son and his girlfriend are now driving around in a very old Audi 6 because the guy didn't pay his bill and never showed up. And they finally went through the process of, I mean, the car wasn't worth much, but the guy went through a lot of work and
Well,
they
and
ended
that's
up
it. The
owning that
clients
car.
own this, the clients own the source documents, but if we're paying for the subscription,
Yeah.
which we would, I don't know how they're charging, how they're planning on charging for it, but it's going to be less. But if we're paying for the subscription and we give the client back the source document, the entering of it in there, that is work we have done that they need to pay for before they can get it. They have their source documents back, which is their data, right? So there's, yeah, lots around
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
but yeah, same, you're right, Jennifer. Yeah.
Yeah, no, Pranay's mentioned that's a mechanic's lien and it is. So it's not that they don't own it. It's that there's a lien against, I guess that's how it's a lien against it. When they pay their bill, they get their data. I'm sure
Well,
that's,
and like I say, they can
I'm
get
not a
the
lawyer,
data.
but
They can get the data directly from the company, but the only way that they can um, unencrypt the data is by somebody who has a license, and the license is only going to accounting pros.
yeah. Yeah, I'd be really interested to see this
Yeah.
software when
Yeah.
it comes out.
Boot camp, well, anybody in boot camp gets first access, and we get to play first before it goes public. So
I love it.
there you go.
So
Yeah.
they get the data, but they don't actually get the program.
Yes.
Perfect.
Pranay asked, so can bookkeepers have a lien on the data? I am not sure about that, but I know that pretty much any business can register security against another business or individual.
So I've never put a lien on the data. The few times where I did have issues with that, I this is why I like to be primary admin on the file in QBO. And it's going to be difficult for them to go in and try to get the file. But if I see they're going in and getting the file in my agreement, it says until they have paid for the work that I have done, they're not eligible actually to get it. So I can then, according to my agreement, and a lawyer has looked at up and down and backwards and forwards, I can then go in and delete everything that I've done. Fine. If you've not paid for it, QBO is now going to transfer this file. I've got some notice that they're working on it. I'm just going to delete all the work that you've not paid for.
Wow.
Hmm.
Yep,
How would you go about doing
I've
that?
done it twice.
And how would you go about doing that?
I just simply go in and I delete it. I just go, okay, they paid to this date. I go in and see everything that I've done after that date and I take the time to delete it. I do my reports. I pull my reports with the data that I enter just in case I need to, try to put it back in. If they pay, I don't want to manually re-enter all of that stuff again. So I pull all my reports out in Excel beforehand and then I grab everything from the date that they've paid forward, take it all out and okay, there you go. That's what you've paid for.
Wow.
Yep. And one person did take it and try to challenge it to a lawyer, and they were told, no, this is perfectly fine. And do I use a tool? We use Right Tool, Yui. Right Tool allows me to do a lot of bulk between Right Tool and Zenit. I can do a lot of bulk reversing or deleting or whatnot, but I will put the file back into the same. It's just like the mechanic. Fine, you want your car? I just put a new engine in. I'm taking the new engine out and putting the old engine back in, and you can tow it away.
Yeah.
Same thing. I give it back to them with everything that they have paid for, but it's very clear in my engagement so that I can do it. And like you say, challenged once, and yeah, I got a very nasty email saying that I should make them read it. And I'm like, okay, if those of you that have seen my engagement know, I already have speed bumps in there everywhere. They have to, after every single term, they have to initial, and I'm like, don't be mad at me that you initialed and said, I told you to read it 4 times. I told you in writing, take the time to read it. There is speed bumps. You had to initial by that section. Not my problem. You didn't read it. And the lawyer obviously agrees with me. So,
Cool. All right. Well, thanks everybody. And thank you as always, Tanya.
oh, and thank you as always, Jonathan. I love these nice breaks in the day. And thank you, everybody who keeps coming.
Yes,
And
thank you,
you
everyone.
guys are why we keep doing it.
All right. So this is
Thank
Panda
you so
Bear
much.
signing off.
Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you,
Thanks, Panda
Jonathan and
Bear.
Tanya.
Okay,
Bye.
thanks.
Bye.
Bye.